must have been a good month. $9,000. And at 20?
I feel so behind in life.
You make so much fucking money. You know why you feel behind at your age? Because you're being a dumb piece of... with your money.
I know, but... 2
Jaguars at 19 and 20? That's stupid. I need you to recognize.
I understand
I don't want to be mean.
But...
Okay, then get rid of it.
No, never.
Why?
I will have a Jaguar until the day I die.
You got it at 9%, which is just right anyway.
Well, for starters, that is a bit insane to be earning $9,000 a month and spending it on 2 Jaguars and a Kia as well, if I remember correctly. Completely agree with the guy in the video. It is nuts. And especially at such a young age, all you kind of really need is something that gets you from point A to point B, unless you're raking in millions, right? But for most of us, that isn't the case. So really getting something that gets you from point A to point B really is more than enough.
This cart full of groceries would have cost me $33.68 in May of 2017. I know because I found this old receipt in a book recently. I had used it as a bookmark. Today I went back to the exact same store and purchased as many of the same foods as I could find. There were several items from that original receipt that I did not see in stock today. Those missing items total $5.75, which is why the receipt is showing a higher amount. Aldi has a limited selection, so oftentimes there's only one available size option for each food. However, if there were more than one size available, I chose the smaller size. Most foods went up in price, but a couple of things like the Roma tomatoes actually went down. In 2017, they were 99 cents for 1 pound, and today they're 89 cents per pound. Whenever I do one of these price comparison videos, I'm always shocked by how cheap something used to be. And when I looked at this receipt, I could hardly believe that eggs used to be 65 cents. I've never seen this Aldi carry a half dozen eggs before, so I believe that was for the full dozen. And as you can see today, a dozen eggs is $3.12. That's a 380% price increase. Thankfully, that was the biggest price increase that I saw today. My total for this cart full of groceries today was $45.31. That's $11.63 more than 7 years ago, and about a 34% price increase. Let me know if you thought it would be more or less than that amount.
34% increase is absolutely insane for 7 years. First of all, it's crazy to think that 2017 is 7 years ago. That's nuts in and of itself. But a 34% increase is a lot. I know the $11 difference, $11 might not seem like a lot, but think like larger scale, a 34% increase is pretty nuts for 7 years, not even 10 years.
Did you know the reason that in America your insurance is tied to your employer has to do with World War II? So there was a lot of fear of inflation during the war. So almost throughout the duration of it, there were price and wage freezes. But there was also a huge demand for labor. So to incentivize workers to come work for their companies, employers started offering healthcare. Now, this was supposed to be a temporary measure. However, it ended up taking hold, and that's why we have the broken Baroque system that we do today, where if you're not employed, your ability to access healthcare is significantly limited.
Well, this video explains a lot about American healthcare in a nutshell. In case this is something you didn't know beforehand, because I wasn't fully aware of this, healthcare was used as an incentive for people to come work for that person's company. And the fact that it's still a system that's carried over now is insane. It really does explain why healthcare is such an issue in America. It's almost daily that you see complaints of people saying that their healthcare is bad or they can't afford basic medical needs like insulin, for example. They can't afford their basic medicine. It is insane how something like this, like such a basic human need, essentially kept behind a paywall, so to speak. You have to get into that job and earn that certain amount to get that certain amount of healthcare. You have to work for a good company that had this precedent set in World War II. That is such an archaic system that really needs to be fixed. Gee, I thought American healthcare was bad. This just makes it even worse.
I don't want to work anymore. And now everyone who's not going to watch the full video can go comment about how lazy I am, how lazy my generation is, and how we just don't want to work anymore. And now for those that are still here, I will explain what we mean by that. I do want to work. If I didn't work, I think I would honestly probably get so bored that I would just want to off myself. Like most of us want to work. It helps give you purpose. It helps give you something to do. Hopefully you do something you're passionate about. Luckily for me, I do something I'm passionate about. So I genuinely like my job. But the problem is the purpose of a job is supposed to pay for you to be able to afford to live. And that's just not the case anymore. People in my generation who went to college, who did everything they were supposed to do, worked hard in school, went to a good college, graduated with their degree, yada yada, got their first job, and they can't afford to live. And we're working 40 to 60 hours a week, like on average, and we cannot afford to live. Like, we just do not make enough to pay rent, to pay for food. Everything is so expensive right now, and wages are not keeping up with the cost of living. So we are working full time, giving up a huge portion of our lives to work, and we can't even afford to live. That is why my generation is frustrated. That is why we don't want to work anymore, because we work really hard and we still can't afford to even get by. So, like, what's the point? We can't afford to save. We can't afford to buy things we want. We can't afford to go out and do fun things. We can barely afford to pay our rent and buy food. A lot of us have like 2 or 3 jobs, or like work a full-time job and have several side hustles. That is the case for me. And then older generations just look at us and they're like, you're not working hard enough. This is your fault. Like, you're not working hard enough. That's why you can't get. The reason we can't get by is because the cost of living since the 90s has gone up 67%, while the wages have only gone up 18%. So wages have not kept up with the cost of living. That is why we can't afford to live. Not because we're lazy, not because we don't work, not because we don't want to work anymore. That is why. That is all. We're also in extreme debt because everything is so much more expensive than it used to be. College is way more expensive than it used to be. Cars are way more expensive than they used to be. Housing, way more expensive than it used to be. And on top of all that, politicians and older generations are destroying our environment, not doing anything to protect it, so we don't even know that there'll be a habitable Earth when we're older to live in. So yeah, that makes us pretty pessimistic and nihilistic and not want to work.
Okay, this, as you can see, I was looking at the camera a lot, trying to say like, yeah, exactly, because she was just essentially furthering the points I was trying to make based off the previous video. It is not that young people don't want to work anymore. It's essentially just like, what's the point? Because working, as she said, is meant to be something that would allow you and give you the means to live, to support yourself, to exist, and live a comfortable, fulfilling life. Scratch that, just live with the bare minimum that you need. It is insane that jobs nowadays, the same job that would have been able to provide for a family of 2 kids, back like 30, 40 years ago, now can barely support a single person living in a studio apartment. It is insane that the older generation, the boomers, classify us as lazy, as unmotivated to work, when the reality of the situation is that everything is just so darn expensive now, and working the same amount, scratch that, working more for the same amount of money or even less now to pay for these more expensive goods is near impossible. It is something that you cannot do. It is not sustainable to do. Everything is so expensive. Owning a house is out of the question for most people. Rent is out of the question for most people. Owning a car is out of the question for most people. So really, what are we working for? What are we working towards? Because a lot of people just work and living paycheck to paycheck, and they work for 20, 30 years and they have nothing to show for it. It is sad. It's the sad reality that we live in today.
Why is everything so expensive? 4 years ago, my rent was $1,200 a month at a luxury apartment complex. It is now $2,100, not even including utilities. I went to the grocery store yesterday, right, and got 3 bags of chips, some ground turkey, and some vegetables, and it was $67! What? My car insurance from 4 years ago until now, with no tickets, no wrecks, no nothing on my driver's record, has gone from $130 to $240 per month. 3 years ago, my electric bill was averaging $45. Now it's averaging $125. You go and get a tank of gas once a week, and you're dropping $70. I mean, a guy can't even buy a can of dip for less than $8. $8 for a can of dip? What the f*** is going on?
There seems to be a theme with today's videos, and that is that life is just essentially unlivable nowadays with how astronomically high the price of every single good is that you need to live. It's insane.
You're absolutely drowning financially as a single 29-year-old.
Babe, it's not you. Things have changed. She's 29. I'm 41. Old millennial here, younger millennial there. By the time I was 29 years old, I had been married for 7 years. I had a kid and I'd bought 5 houses. And I started my married life off with $25,000 in credit card debt and nothing else. And there's just no way that I could have done any of that if I'd been in my 20s for the past decade. 24 years old, I became a real estate agent. I'm going to give one example of how that actually worked for me back then that it would never. There's something called a broker price opinion, or a BPO, that you can do as a real estate agent. It pays a certain amount of money for you to go out and take a couple pictures of a house and give a valuation. Normally they're ordered by banks. I used to do a boatload of these things every month. Like, I was making $7,000 to $9,000 every month just doing BPOs alone, not even counting my property sales. Back then, they paid $50 to $100. Guess what they pay today? $50 to $100. It's not you.
If anything, what this lady said in the video is a mantra that all of you should practice. Everybody out there who's feeling drowned in debt or in bills, and just if you're feeling drowned financially, just know it is not you. Because it is one thing to tell someone go work another job or work more hours, get more shifts in, do overtime, when even doing all those things still doesn't cover the necessities that you need it to. Again, beating a dead horse at this point, wages do not match the increasing cost of goods. People's wages aren't going up. Like she said many, many years ago, that side hustle she was doing with real estate stuff was earning her $50 to $100 a pop. And now it is still earning her $50 to $100 a pop. And that is wild to me. That is insane to me. People just need to be paid more, because if the government isn't going to do anything about the increasing price of goods, people need to be paid fairly. People need to be paid what they're worth, and people need to be paid in a way that's conscious of what's going on in the world.
$1 million 1993 today is now $2,070,000. Inflation in 5 years will probably devalue half of everyone's money listening to this in their 401ks, IRAs, and their soft saving accounts. Like right now, the world is a wreck, and their only solution to the devaluation is they're going to have to work harder. Over the last 20 years, 2002 to 2022, salaries have increased 27%, but the cost of a home has gone up 148%. In other words, like, our cost of living and lifestyles is not keeping up. Average person drives a $60,000 a year car that has a $50,000 a year salary with over $100,000 of student debt, 60% of America living check to check. We have a problem, and being busy is not the solution, and getting another job is not the solution. You have to graduate and develop more of the Gen Z millennial mind that says there's got to be a smarter way. It can't be the immigrant way of just work harder, because there is something to say for hard work. But if it's not smart enough hard work, then it's stupid work. It's dumb work. And there's a lot of financial idiots out there that have just not gotten themselves educated.
Exactly what we've been covering in the previous videos. Working harder is not a viable solution anymore, because yeah, the older generation just says, oh, if you just put your foot down and work, you'll make it in, and you'll make it in life. You'll get what you want. The American dream, right? That is not realistic anymore. That does not work anymore. Going back to what I said earlier, side gigs and side hustles that earn you more money, that earn you, essentially it's just a whole nother stream of income to your actual job, and it could potentially earn you more than your actual job, are vital today. They're essential. Please get on it as soon as you can. There are so many tutorials on YouTube on many different things that you can do, and trust me, there is something for you out there. If you're willing to check it out and do the work, you will be able to make this something that works for you.